Hello, one and all. Jasper here, joined by DJ Fella, and welcome to the Tards Watch, where in this video, we're going to be talking about the second episode of Arcane.
Yeah, and this one is we're still in the build up. We're still getting characters set up and established, still figuring out how the world works and all that stuff. So there's a lot to learn in this episode.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think, especially with my knowledge on all the episodes, and to be clear, this isn't a bad episode, but I would say I don't know. I found it to be the least good.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know where I rank all the episodes. It's been a while since I watched. I've been meaning to do a full rewatch in between these episodes, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. So my memory of the episodes that come after this is pretty vague.
Mm-hmm. Which, who knows? Maybe that's the best way to go about it one way or another. But I think this is just... it's just, again, more build-up. And it's good build-up, but I think it suffers a little bit in what's happening in Piltover. Which isn't quite as interesting as what's happening in the Undercity. Which I don't think that's actually the name of it anymore.
Is it not the name of it? Well, either way. I disagree. I think the stuff going on in Piltover is just as interesting.
I mean, to each their own. But either way, I think we can both agree it's still a fantastic episode. As now...
It's still fantastic.
Yeah, it's still fantastic. As now, with this episode, we kind of get to see what's happening on the other side of things, you know?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So I think the underground is called Zaun, or Zaun, Z-A-U-N.
Really?
Yeah, kind of not the best name ever, but we see the...
I don't feel like I've ever heard anyone call it that in the show.
Well, maybe we have to pay attention while we're kind of going through it with the subtitles, but in this episode, we're kind of getting recapped on what happened in the previous episode, but from the point of the victim being robbed. As now we get to see Jace trying to break down the door, only to be, exploded.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a rough time getting the door open there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a pretty well-fortified door.
Yeah, clearly. Mm-hmm. And it's always cool to get a different perspective on a scene like that, especially since, honestly, when I was watching it, when I first watched episode 1, I didn't even really think about who the hell they were robbing. So then to open this episode where you're like, oh shit, that's an actual person that got robbed. It wasn't just like a random thing that happened. Like, this is going to be important later as things progress.
Yep. And yeah, it's good. It's very interesting how they do connect things very early on. But either way, because of this explosion, Jace gets knocked out. And we get
knocked into the past.
We get a little bit of a flashback. And what I like about this at the very beginning, it's kind of like some of the smaller details we're not paying attention. So obviously Jace is with his mother, and they're traveling through the harsh winters, this winter world, and she collapsed. And there's just these little things you can pick up on. Like if you pause, you don't even have to pause, but if you look at her hand, 2 of her fingers are purple, and the other one is turning purple. I think it's supposed to be frostbite.
Yeah, or also when your fingers are cold, they get red. But yeah, the art's very detailed. I agree.
Little aspects here and there, and then we get the mystery magic user. I mean, maybe the video game players will know who this guy is, but we know fuck and all about him.
Yeah, but he's got cool rocks.
Mm-hmm. Very pretty rocks. And I have to say, animation-wise, it's beautiful in how he works his spell. When it feels so galactic and powerful.
Well, to be fair, he does cast like a crazy spell.
Mm-hmm.
Like he straight up, like, as far as I can tell, he teleports them like who knows how far. It looks like really far.
Oh yeah, and the way they're zipping through space, it's like they're traveling through time, and then you see the hand and the galaxy being engulfed, the world. It's just so cool.
The shot where you get the like lunar. I'm going to call it a lunar eclipse, but it's the moon going in front of the Earth, and then like transitions into an eye. That's a really cool shot there.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, this scene is to establish, why Jace has a fascination and drive in order to learn magic.
Well, and it also does a fantastic job of establishing just how powerful magic is in this world. Like, if you can just fucking zip across, I'm going to say at least hundreds of miles, then who knows what the limits are.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a really cool detail that it brought some of the snow with them.
Yeah, it's not just the people being moved around, but it's, the kind of small area around them.
Yeah.
Then
the cool wizard gives him a little souvenir.
Yeah, a little itty bitty rock.
And his life was never the same after that.
It was changed forever. But back over to modern times, we see that apparently he wasn't exactly on the up and up in regards to his experiments and whatnot. Apparently he was doing a little illegal activity.
Yeah, which I find it kind of interesting. Like, I'm wondering what exactly about like his tools. I mean, obviously the magic stones are going to be illegal, but the magic stones are gone, except for I guess the one that exploded. So I'm wondering what other aspects of his research were banned resources. We know he had to buy things from, I'm just going to keep calling it the Undercity. So I imagine that has something to do with it. But like, when the kids were robbing the place, they didn't, I mean, at least Powder didn't, geek out and be like, oh man, this is a banned item. She was just like, yeah, he's got nose hair trimmers, I guess.
Yeah, to be fair, she says, I guess not illegal, but she does say that they're restricted items and that you can apparently use them if you have permits, which he does not have. So this might be a situation of him kind of like not breaking the law, but kind of skirting around it a little bit. No, he's still breaking it, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, but whatever those items are, obviously we don't know. And I would say, Powder not knowing whether the items are restricted or not. It could be like, kind of like how in our real world, we obviously have items that you need permits for. But if you see someone with that item, you're not going to be like, oh, shit, that guy's got a jackhammer.
You don't need a permit for a jackhammer.
Do you not need a permit for a jackhammer?
You definitely don't need a permit for a jackhammer.
I feel like you should. It's a dangerous weapon.
How would I? It would be hard. It would be hard to kill somebody with a jackhammer.
Yeah, you just have to put in enough effort. But suffice it to say, because of these little actions, he gets arrested and taken to jail. Or house arrest, student arrest. Definitely doesn't really... I guess the windows are kind of barred up.
Yeah, I think it's a prison.
It's a nice prison. It's definitely not as like, nice. It's much better than the one we'll see later.
Yeah, it's like a white-collar prison.
And here we get our first introduction to good old cute Heimerdinger, however you pronounce it.
And he immediately advocates for drugging people in prison.
I mean, is he advocating
what a
for
conundrum.
drugging?
Yeah, how else are you going to prison the mind? You got to keep them dosed up.
I guess that is one way you could interpret his wording.
Which actually, it's kind of, now that I think about it, it's kind of a weird thing that, yeah, we imprisoned the body and not the mind because we're hoping that you use your mind to think about what you did with your body and reflect on those actions. Like the fact that the mind isn't imprisoned is actually one of the fundamental points of imprisoning somebody.
I mean, this might get a bit too philosophical or something, but I mean, one of the isn't the fact that you are imprisoned in a way still somewhat imprison the mind? Like, granted, we can imprison the body to a greater extent than we can imprison the mind, but the simple act of imprisoning the body arguably does imprison the mind. Like, if you put someone in solitary confinement, that's some real mental imprisonment there.
Yeah, but to a lesser extent than the physical imprisonment. And for the most part with prisons, again, we give prisoners access to libraries. We don't want to imprison people's minds. Because again, we want them to be able to learn and understand why what they did was wrong and grow from it.
Fair enough, but with that, Heimerdinger, kind of going back and forth with Jay, starts giving him the old, boy, I've been around on this planet a lot longer than you have, and you fucked up.
Yep. And, Jace tells him that he was fucking trying to do magic. And this is where we get, I think, one of the fundamental themes of the show, which is the classic Frankenstein problem of when does science go too far? We are too busy asking whether we can. We never stop to think if we should.
Mm-hmm. I've always found that a pretty interesting kind of discussion or topic, because we all would probably draw the line in different areas and places.
Yeah, and well, it's an especially interesting topic of conversation, now, in the past 100 years, it's just become more and more relevant every single day. So, I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily a timeless theme to explore, but it's certainly going to be relevant for the foreseeable future of humanity.
Oh, immensely.
And so Heimerdinger is kind of the conservative, you might say. He's advocating for a more restrained approach to science, and Jace is, of course, the young buck, wants to just fucking progress.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's just kind of kind of how our own world works. The older they get, the kind of more reserved one often becomes. Whereas the younger you are, the more driven and wanting progress to just keep going regardless of it being good or bad.
Typically, yeah.
Only this one's on steroids because Heimerdinger is 307 years old.
Right.
But anyways, he tells him if you just admit you're wrong, you'll be let off easy. Don't you worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, we're kind of cut back to the Undercity, where we see the group kind of playing and hanging out, trying to keep a low profile.
Mm-hmm. We get a little bit of, I guess, characterization of their fighting capabilities. Obviously, we know Bai's capable in a fist fight, but we, I guess, see her training, see why she's capable in a fist fight, mm-hmm. And then we get, of course, the scene where Powder is really handy with a gun.
She's tech savvy and knows how to gangsta shoot.
Yeah, she's got high dexterity, high intelligence.
Also, I know these are fictional guns, but I just kind of want to point something out. The amount of shots that both Powder and Milo make is ridiculous. There's no way they can hold that many balls.
Yeah, they don't have a magazine. They also, I don't know, what's supposed to be launching the balls. It doesn't appear that there's room for a spring, with a Nerf gun, or, I mean, maybe there's a CO2 canister type thing they got in there.
Maybe, but then the barrel's too wide or open. Wouldn't it shoot all the balls that are placed in there at once?
Well, the balls. There's no way for all those balls. It would need some sort of magazine. And then also they've got the fucking like old school kind of blunderbuss barrels, so those things aren't going to be very accurate.
You see, this is the problem with media these days. People don't know how a gun actually fucking works.
Yeah, that is the fundamental problem. I agree.
But anyways,
it's actually if I can bring it around to a little bit of a conclusion, it's actually the fact that people don't understand Chekhov's gun. That's the fundamental problem.
You are correct. People need to know both about these guns.
All right. So yeah, they're hanging out in the arcade, and then there's a little bit of a commotion outside.
Yeah, you got some of the enforcers kind of looking around, trying to find out who caused the big kabloomy.
Right. Which it seems like they know. I mean, maybe not know, but they've got a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously know someone in the Undercity did it, so now they're just kind of turning the whole place upside down to try and find the culprit.
Well, and like Marcus, I think he's aware that it was the 4 kids.
Well, I don't think he's aware it's the 4 kids till later.
You don't think so? I mean, they were running through the streets in front of tons of people.
I mean, I think that helps, but like you're talking about this running away. Wait! You're talking about back in the first episode.
Yeah, in the first episode.
You're right. They probably should have gotten like pretty decent descriptions on who it was, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, like I think they know. I mean, that's why the kids are hiding in the arcade. Although the arcade apparently not that good a hiding spot.
Yeah. But this, of course, leads to another chase between the enforcers and our group of 4 here.
Yeah, and I love, again, just like they do such fantastic character work with the way people act, right? Like they utilize the choreography and, they don't expose, they don't use exposition for every little thing, which is just, it's so rare to come across these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would like for you to go a bit more in specifics, but you see how, like, not Powder. Vi is definitely the more aggressive and kind of defending of them, as she's the one who, like, kind of takes the first violent action, I think, by throwing a piece of her boxing machine at the enforcers.
Right, and I mean, just, yeah, all of the fact that all of the kids know exactly what to do as soon as the lights flick off, they're all fucking booking it out of there. No hesitation, no like questioning. And they work together. Vi comes and helps Powder run, and then as they're escaping down the alley, we've had Echo characterized as someone who's very attentive, always keeping an eye on things going on around him. So normally having a character appear and drop a ladder down for people to escape would be kind of a Deus Ex Machina sort of thing. But they've done such a good job characterizing all of them that when Echo drops the ladder down, it's like, of course Echo's going to be there with the ladder. Like that's what he does.
I would say I do feel like Echo being there to drop the ladder, while he's a character where it makes the most sense, it does feel a little convenient.
It's definitely convenient, but I think that it's perfectly reasonable.
Maybe.
I mean, like Echo is like, that's who he is. He's attentive. He's keeping an eye on what people are doing around him, and because of that, he's in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just now. He was in the right place at the right time whenever he was getting the information for them to perform the heist. He was in the right place at the right time whenever he was overhearing Vander talk to the enforcers. And, that's just like a part of his character.
I don't know. I think even with all that, it just feels a little contrived. I always preferred when, like, the one's running away. Like, I think that's why I kind of prefer the first chase to this one. It's that the skills of the four are what get them out of the situation rather than, a bit of fate and luck.
I would disagree that it's just fate and luck. But the next scene also has fantastic, subtle character work that they don't spend an overt amount of time on. Because I mean the juice of the scene is introducing Medarda and kind of getting an idea for
That can't
what
be her
kind
name.
of her Medarda? That's her last name. I think her first name's Mel or something.
Yeah, I thought that was where she was from. Medarda? Because she says...
I thought that was like her last name.
Oh, okay. So I kind of misremembered it. I thought she was saying, yet I am the poorest... Because they say she's the richest person in Piltover. And then she says, yet I remain the poorest. And I was kind of thinking in Medarda. But no, that's her family, the Medardas. Which, holy fuck. How rich do your family members have to be for you to be the richest fucker in an entire city like this and still be the poorest?
Yeah, her family's rich. And we get... Yeah, so we kind of get an idea for her character. They set her up. She's obviously,
a big
she's
player.
Plotting. I guess I would say I feel like there's a better word for it. I can't think of what it is. Yeah,
Conniving?
like I don't want to.
Any other?
It doesn't. I don't
things?
even feel. Yeah, that's the problem. Is I want something like slightly less negative. But yeah, she's plotting on him, and she buys a little toy for some reason. I wonder if that's going to be relevant later.
It's a little bit. But we also kind of jump over after being introduced to Mel. We're kind of better introduced to Caitlin and her family. We obviously saw Caitlin as Jace was trying to get the door open.
Right. They were the ones sponsoring Jace's research, so this whole situation is extremely relevant to them. We don't get much time with them, and then we are back down in the Undercity.
Yeah, where
people are kind of getting a little riled up.
Yeah, and specifically, it seems like this here female, I believe her name is Savika, she doesn't seem too pleased about how things are going.
Yeah. One thing I do appreciate is that they only give, like, the fact that Vander's protecting the kids that he's kind of responsible for. They only give that, like, a brief moment. Like, it's brought up, which I think it needed to be brought up, but everyone kind of just accepts when he's like, I would do the same for any of you. Everyone's like, yeah, that's true. And so then it's less about Vander. None of the people are really trying to give up the kids so much as they just want to fight.
Yeah, and to be fair, you can entirely understand why they want to fight. Because shit kind of sucks for them.
For sure.
But you had a nice little kind of standoff between Savika and Vander. As he calls her afraid, he just walks up and asks, do I look afraid? Like,
Yeah.
Just, I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of prefer the first episode slightly to this one. It's because I think I just kind of click a lot more with the characters in the Undercity compared to Piltover.
Yeah, you always were kind of a Marxist.
I wouldn't go that far. But it's also probably a little bit of the underdog.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody can always relate with an underdog. That scene is also where Vi finds out that Vander is working with the Enforcers.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of expecting that to, like, lead to more drama, but it doesn't really.
It leads to stuff, obviously, but I think
It
that's when
leads to stuff, not drama. It leads to good communication.
yeah, and that's what I think that's one of the biggest strengths of especially these first few episodes. It's the characters like talk. It's not like, for example, it wasn't like when Powder misheard Vi and she just keeps that bottled up and it's the motivation for the entire season. They then later talk, get over it. It's like they use it for more character kind of interactions and for us to learn more about them.
Right.
But then we're jumping around fast in this episode because we're back over at Piltover and we see all the counselors, I believe they're called.
Yes.
She gives her little toy gift to one of them.
Yeah, which again, it's such a fantastic way to like get an idea for her character where it's like, okay, she went and she bought a kid's toy because she wanted it to be like easy to solve, kind of make you feel smart thing. And they never stop and explain it. They just show it.
Mm-hmm.
She just does these things and it's so obvious. Like you don't have to be a fucking genius. Everybody watching this realizes what's happening, but it's just so well done, so subtle.
Mm-hmm.
So, mwah.
I do just kind of find it like funny. Like it makes perfect sense. Don't get me wrong, but I find it funny that because she bought the guy just a little toy, that's what helped her allow him to vote in order for Jace to get a lighter sentence.
Well, I think the implication would be that she has been currying favor with him.
Maybe, but
more than just buying him that toy.
Maybe, but I don't know. I think the toy did a lot of heavy lifting here.
Yeah, he did seem to really like that toy.
Mm-hmm. Now, we are introduced to like a lot of the counselors. And I will say, obviously, some are much more important than the others. Because, like, for example, the blonde one who, like, offers nuts or whatever to the guy, the black girl who's bald, like, they don't play much of a significance in the story. But there is one of the chancellors that I'm very...
Counselors.
What?
Counselors?
Did I say chancellors? My bad. Counselors. It's the kind of like robot one who seems to have a strong history and motivation for being against magic, even more than Heimerdinger.
Right. I don't know anything about the robot people, but it seems like they might have been like genocided or something.
That's the thing. There's like something there, and it's like, and I would hope that he gets like a little more moments. But, he never really kind of crops up again. He has a couple of lines here and there, but
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of the anti-magic faction, I guess you would call them, kind of get... They're kind of made less relevant after the time skip that happens a little bit later. Because anti-magic, I guess... ideas are so much less popular.
Mm-hmm. And I get that, but I think actually, you know what? I think we can tackle the topic of like the counselors. And their prominence in the story at a different particular scene. I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself because this specifically is to focus on Jace and how he kind of ignores what Heimerdinger cautioned him to do as regards to not mentioning magic.
Yeah, they were talking shit, though.
Yeah, they were just dumping on Ol for his dreams.
Yeah, they were like, oh, so you're blowing up buildings and you're not even doing any important research? So I think they do a good job of drawing it out of him. Where it's like, yeah, if you were really working on something you're passionate about and you had to stand there while a bunch of people are like, oh, so you're just wasting all of your time? You're just a big waste of resources? You'd have to step up and defend yourself.
Yeah. I will say, though, something that I'm a little frustrated about is Heimerdinger being very vague in why we should be careful and kind of not trust or try to control magic. He's just like, I've seen it corrupt and consume and destroy, lay waste to civilizations. I don't know. It just seems so broad. Like, I think he should kind of dive into more specifics.
You mean like right now?
Yeah.
You should dive into more specific. I mean, I assume the other people at the council are aware. Yeah, I guess maybe he should have like pulled Jace aside and been like, "Hey, bro, this is what's up."
Let me tell you this.
Prevented some stuff.
Let me tell you about the shit that I've seen.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, seem to be going south for Jace here, as he's going to be facing banishment from the city in its entirety. But luckily, his mama comes and pulls his ass out of the fire.
Mm-hmm. That's always a fun thing, having your mom stand up for you.
Mm-hmm. Even if she is saying, like, he a dumbass.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I was being sarcastic. It's always really embarrassing having your mom stand up for you.
But anyways, it softens the heart of all the counselors, and at least...
Not all of them. It softens the hearts of enough of them.
But at least Jace skirts away from banishment and instead just kind of removed and expelled from the academy.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I mean, the whole judgment is really well done. I enjoyed it.
I'm sorry, I'm just kind of watching that scene again where Nell just glares at the guy who he just gave a toy to, and he's like, "Oh shit, okay."
Yeah, again, just like really well done, subtle characterization. No dialogue really exchanged to explain what's happening.
And so with that, he gets off with this warning. Pretty serious punishment, all things considered, though obviously got off light. But then,
yeah, I mean, his life was kind of ruined. So, like all of his life's worth of research has been kind of thrown in the trash. So,
yeah, to be fair, it blew up in his face.
It did blow up in his face, but that was because of a bunch of ruffians.
Yeah, you can't trust those slum diggers.
True.
Back over in the Undercity, though, a pretty sunny part of the Undercity, we have Silco interacting with
Marcus.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
I find it interesting that Marcus is willing to kind of cooperate with Silco.
Yeah. I mean, Silco is pretty much offering him, like, hey, I can tell you, like, where the ones you're looking for are.
For sure.
So I think
he's letting his naive enthusiasm get the better of him.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, also just look at Silco. Isn't that a face you can trust?
He's got a pretty trustworthy face.
Yeah, something about that eye.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody who's got the whole Two-Face thing going on, that's trustworthy.
Mm-hmm. And then we're back over at Piltover. We see Jace rubbing at the rock or stone that was given to him by the mage. And he seems pretty peeved about the entire situation.
Yeah, he's not thrilled that his life's work has been ruined.
Just noticed this, but did you see the mother's hand when she reaches up for one of the stones that are on the window?
I did not.
She's got...
Is she like missing a finger?
She's got 2 fake fingers.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, she is wearing like... Yeah, they're weird things. I never registered them as fake fingers. I just thought it was like a jewelry thing, but you're right.
Maybe, but I think it is fake fingers. Because there's a reason why they made her fingers purple.
Yeah. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, those are little kind of details most people wouldn't notice, but it's just cool when they actually have it.
Right. And I mean, who knows how many subtle details like that we're missing? But that's the kind of attentive detail that really makes the world come to life. That makes the characters feel like people.
Mm-hmm. Things have consequences. It's not just going to be like scooped away when it's inconvenient, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Back over into the Heimerdinger's lab, I presume. We have Heimerdinger and Victor kind of talking a little bit about the magic and whatnot and how dangerous or if it could possibly be controlled and harnessed.
Right. And Victor is being pretty blatant about the fact that he thinks it's really interesting research and that it should be continued. And Heimerdinger just doesn't really pick up on it.
Yeah, he's not the most aware individual. Perceptive, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, he isn't very perceptive.
300 years old, one of the smartest scientists ever, but just not good with like emotions or hints like that.
Yeah, not a people person.
Yeah. And obviously Victor has his own motivations for why it's a good idea that he would want to kind of delve into the magic.
For sure.
And now we're back in the Undercity, I assume, because they're like underwater and shit.
Yeah.
And we got...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what a map of this place would look like, but this has to be the bottom, I think.
Yep. We got Silco and Deckard. And Silco here seems to want to convince him, like, hey, this is some good shit. It'll be good for you, make you strong. And Deckard pretty much says no outright at first. But then Silco gives a little bit of a speech.
Which is a pretty good speech, but I don't know if it's like convince me to take suicidal drugs
right?
Kind of speech.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really matter how much you're willing to sacrifice for power if the thing you're sacrificing is your life. But I guess it doesn't immediately kill him, so
yeah,
good for him.
Yeah, and that was kind of like my thought. I felt like even though it's a pretty good speech, I don't know if I kind of buy Deckard being like still down to give it a shot.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, like as far as he's aware, that drinking that stuff's just gonna kill him.
Mm-hmm. Maybe if it was,
I mean, it's pretty. Sorry for interrupting, but it's pretty brave of Silco to just give it to him
there,
like out in the open, because as far as he knows, he's just gonna go completely berserk.
Right? You saw what the rat did to the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess.
So maybe if Silco kind of had like kind of his protection and bodyguards with him, and it was heavily implied to Deckard, either you drink this purple steroid juice and you might survive, or we're definitely going to kill you.
Yeah. But I guess maybe he doesn't want to transform him with threats of violence because then he'd be more likely to turn on him.
That's a possibility.
Manipulation is maybe a little bit more fruitful there than force.
Possibly. Maybe we need a little bit of dose of both. Threatful, manipulation, compassion, something like that. It's like when I'm a man who can't be threatened, and I'm a man who can't be bribed. But when you put the two together, I'm your man.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. Back over to Piltover. Fucking hell, we really are.
See, so this is what this episode does so well that like House of the Dragon completely fails to do. Is like this is the lead up to the like conflict that's going to be taking place, and so with House of the Dragon, they do the back and forth thing, but it's like it goes for well after the like boiling point has been reached. Mm-hmm. But Arcane knows that this whole back and forth where you're seeing both sides of the story and you're seeing how people are both working to prevent the conflict and how people are working to cause the conflict and how like all these different motivations are going to crescendo. And I kind of lost my thread of thought there a little bit, but basically it does a really good job of showing both sides and how they're maybe not always interacting, but how they're affecting each other.
Yeah, how it's affecting. You can kind of see the thin connections almost everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, this episode it is like kind of whiplash. It's just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But I think it works really well for what this episode is building to.
Yeah, it has a lot to build and set up. And I would say, like, the second episode, it suffers a bit from that, but it had to be done, and it does it still in a very, very competent manner.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to Chekhov's gun, where there's not a wasted scene or a wasted line of dialogue or a wasted character movement. Everything is moving towards the final purpose.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's not really any moment where you feel like you can cut it. Like, maybe trim it, but even then, I would hesitate to do it. It just feels like every scene is integral to the story that is being told. There's not a lot, if any, wasted time or downtime.
Yeah, which this comes back to the importance of drafting. This is why when the writers were like, we wrote Black Widow in 7 hours, it's like, that is not good to hear. That is a terrible way to write a movie. You should write the whole movie and then completely rewrite it probably like 3 or 4 times before you like get to something that you're willing to show people.
Personally, I don't think it took them even 7 hours.
Right.
But now back to like the scenes at hand, we get to see Jace being a bit of a depressy, sad boy in the rain and whatnot as he tries to come back to the rich, supporting family. I guess I'm assuming they're the Kiramans. Like, I think that's Caitlyn's last name, but tries to kind of, I'm assuming, make peace with them and explain everything.
Well, I think he was mostly just wanting to apologize to Caitlyn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's really thinking that high or that political, for the most part.
But we got a nice
also,
little kind
I think he's probably already planning to kill himself at this point. So he might just be saying goodbye.
It's like, shit. It was nice seeing you.
Yeah. And then we're up with the counselors as they're discussing what action needs to be taken with the enforcers.
And they're like, harder.
Yeah, they're like, we should freaking destroy. We should destroy the whole. We should go to war. That's what they're saying, basically.
Yeah, like, a part of me can understand the importance of this, but at the same time, like, do they assume that the thieves have any magic stuff with them? Because we haven't really seen any talks about the magic crystals themselves.
Right. I think for them, it's mostly just about portraying competence to the people. Giving them the knowledge that they're willing to do what it takes to make sure things are safe. Whereas, like, if they just let the most like public robbery in a long time that was also involved magic items go unpunished, then a lot of the people might not be thrilled with it.
Might set up a lot of turbulent things, but funnily enough, with their investigations, it's just causing it to be worse.
Right. And they basically give Marcus all the fuel he needs to light a fire.
To set this match off near a ton of gasoline.
Right.
But then, after that, we're back in the slums, and we see Marcus and his boys kind of searching around in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Vector. Wait, which one is it? Vander. We see Marcus and Vander having a bit of an interesting back and forth as Marcus seems to comment on Vander's history.
Yeah, but can I just say that I'll take the strongest shit you got is the cringiest thing you can say to a bartender.
All right.
That hurts my soul.
Yeah, sure, buddy. Here you go. Here's a mimosa.
Yeah, what you're supposed to say is you're supposed to say, pour me something tall and strong, make it a hurricane before I go insane. You know what I mean?
Careful, I don't need this video to be copyright claimed, all right?
Yeah, I do kind of sound like Jimmy Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so yeah, he gets a little glass of booze. Wonder what he's going to do with that. And the enforcer goes to search down below, and like, what the hell was Powder's? How did Powder end up like that?
I mean, obviously, she just kind of climbed up there.
Yeah. And then, I'm having jumping ahead on the whole Powder thing. So he's up top with a drink, and he literally, imagine that, he literally starts a fire.
Just takes the pipe and puts it in
while talking with Vander, and it's a pretty good juxtaposition showing the kids hiding and the conversation between Vander and Marcus, where this scene is really like the establishment of like just we're this close to things popping off.
Right? Because you know damn well if the enforcer found them, Vander's throwing hands.
For sure.
Yeah. And again, you have Vander here being just a very, stoic, intimidating guy, as he just says, cast iron. It's hard to clean.
Right. But the enforcer doesn't find the kids, and Marcus gets a little angry.
I will say, though, in regards to, as the kids are hiding, you're kind of got a point. How is it that Powder got the worst fucking position to hide in, and they all kind of see her struggling and, don't try too hard in, helping her?
Well, I think that they couldn't really move. They were worried about making noise. But I would argue that somebody reaching out to grab Powder and help her not fall would probably be less risky than just hoping that she doesn't slip.
Yeah.
Especially considering she flops on the floor loud as hell right after the guy closes the door. Like that guy
definitely heard it. Maybe it's because of his Darth Vader mask he can't hear as well.
Maybe so. Darth Vader masks can't be great for hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also interesting that Marcus isn't wearing his mask anymore.
That's because he's having a drink. Kind of. I mean, he's setting his drink on fire.
He is setting his drink on fire. You can't be wearing a mask when you set your drink on fire.
Maybe that's how you're supposed to drink it. You kind of just set it on fire and then you breathe it in.
Yeah, smoke it.
I mean, who knows? This is a crazy world. They got fish people. They got magic. Stop treating it so seriously, DJ.
I'm treating it the exact correct amount of serious, as I do with all things.
Too seriously.
And so yeah, Vander goes and checks on the kids, and Vi is ready for a tussle.
She ain't too happy with how things are going.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
No, you can take it.
Well, I mean, and this leads to probably, in my opinion, the best scene of the episode.
Maybe so.
I don't know. I'm always been a bit of a sucker for parent-kid relationships, and just seeing Vander being a damn good father. I just like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And Vi actually listening to him and taking his advice.
That's the really good part, in my opinion. Like, there's so many scenes where like the parental figure is giving advice to the kid, but then the kid has to like go and be stupid a whole bunch before they like realize the lesson. But Vi just like listens to what Vander's saying and thinks about what he's saying, and then, comes to her own conclusions.
And of course, the conclusion she comes to, as far as like later in the episode, it's just like it's very mature and it's very nice. Like, she's young. Yeah, she might be a bit hot headed, but she's not an idiot.
Right. Yeah, and I love the show does a really good job of like explaining that like war is a sacrifice, and you can either be sacrificing yourself or you can be sacrificing the people you love.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta make that choice, and that's what Vi does.
It's beautiful. That tells you on the bridge where all the like terrible shit happened. You see Piltover off in the distance.
Yeah, it's the again, it's literally the bridge between the two cities, and then to have that also be the location where Vander's explaining the importance of reconciliation, the importance of avoiding conflict. It's really well done.
Yeah, not to mention like the final bit of it where Vi's like leaning against Vander, and she just straight up asks him like, "What are we going to do? The enforcers will be back." And then Vander just honestly responds, "I don't know. I'll think of something." And the way she looks at him, I think like that's the moment where she decides, like, this is kind of my fault. So I'm going to be the one to take the rap for this.
Yeah. Take responsibility for my actions.
Mm-hmm. And she looks down to the memorials of the people who died there. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming like maybe some of those are for her parents.
Yeah, I think so. I thought we saw a picture, but maybe not.
I think there were definitely a couple of pictures, but I'm like too lazy to like go back to the first episode, look at the folks, and then come back here and see if they match.
Yeah, that's fair. And so, speaking of sacrifices, Jace is about to fucking commit die.
He's just about to step up. Now, I don't know. A part of me always felt that. I don't know. I don't know if the whole like suicide aspect was needed. Like, I get shit hits the fan, but I don't like. And maybe it's like it all happened like in just one episode, where like shit like is just going downhill for him. But I don't know if we've quite reached the whole suicide. I think we needed to see him like try to still continue his research and then just be hit with wall after wall after wall before like he's ready to just call it quits. Also, if you're going to commit suicide, I think you need a taller building.
Yeah, that would have been more of a gimping than a suicide, I think.
Yeah, he would just be another Victor.
Yeah, he would turn into Victor too. But, yeah, I kind of see your point. It does feel like there could have been more build up to it, but I also think that it's not completely unreasonable. Like he's for sure had like his life's work ruined, as far as he knows at this point.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just that. Well, first off, I'm not 100% sure how much time has gone by. I would assume a couple of days, which would be enough. But the issue is like we see him like tell his mom like I'm going to keep trying, and then next time we see him, he's at the gates, really sad, and it's raining and whatnot. And at that moment, it already kind of feels like he's ready to off himself. He's just saying his goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if Caitlin had been like, I'll help you get materials again or something, maybe he would have been like willing to keep going. Maybe that's what he was hoping for or something. I don't know.
But luckily, Victor comes in and saves Jace from his future crippling.
Yeah, from from his failed suicide.
And they have a nice little kind of back and forth bonding moment.
Yeah, and then I mean, you have Victor fulfilling the classic role of Victor Frankenstein, of being like progress at all costs. Fuck conservation or reservation.
Well, and a lot
Don't
of
ask for permission.
yeah, and it's interesting. And what's great about this is the life that these people have. Lead more into that. One of the reasons why specifically Victor is so progress focused, and even more so as the episodes go on, is because he just doesn't have a whole lot of time.
Right.
Like he's sickly. There's like even if he was like even as the audience at this moment, we don't know if his lifespan is like short or whatever, but we can tell he's clearly a sickly man. At the very least, like physically handicapped.
He's limping for sure. It's also another fantastic example of this show using an archetype, but just not like subverting it or doing anything crazy. They're just using the archetype and making a solid character.
Mm-hmm. And they're doing it really well.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you don't need if something's not broken, you don't fix it. But if it's not broken,
don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. But sometimes, you're not trying to you never want to reinvent the wheel. But you can add one or two things to it that maybe kind of just fit better for what you're going for. Like, for example, if you're driving in a big, heavy desert, maybe you put some spikes on it. If you're driving more in a snowy ice area, wrap some chains. If you want to murder someone, you put spikes on it.
Or if you're... I would have gone with, like, wheels used to be made out of wood, but then we figured out that you can make them out of steel and rubber.
That would have been better. Yeah. Infinitely better. Let me try that again. We can just cut this out. Anyways, so after the back and forth between Jace and Victor, back over to the slums where we have Vi interacting with her group again, but more specifically, Powder. Because obviously she's come to the conclusion that she's going to be turning herself in, and this is just her kind of last moment goodbyes with everyone.
Yeah, and I gotta say, thinking about this, why does Powder suck at making grenades so much? Like, it seems like she has access to the explosives and the detonator. So why are her grenades failing?
I mean, I don't know, because I've never made a grenade, so I don't know if I can comment on what she's doing wrong. But you are right. We haven't seen like any of her, like maybe that's kind of like the theme that in general, her gadgets just aren't quite clicking or working out because she's still at that young age of inventing. So she's trying to make her own thing.
Yeah, she sucks at it.
She does. But she gets better.
I got better.
Yeah.
And this is one of the scenes that really reminded me that, like, this show, I don't agree with a lot of the, like, themes or the messages that it might be, like, pointing towards. But it just does such a fantastic job with, like, the fundamentals of storytelling that it's like, I don't need to agree with all of the messages and themes. That's the thing. Like, when people will rail against, like, shows for being too woke, but it's like, this show really is just as woke as a lot of things are, but they didn't sacrifice good writing for it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't mind delving in a little bit more onto the stuff you disagree with, because obviously, fucking Vi walking around with her fucking half-shaved head and, always looking for some tacos to munch on. Yeah, this show's pretty woke and whatnot, but it is still fantastic storytelling, and it's proof that at the end of the day, no matter what kind of your message or goal is, so long as you do it in a competent and capable way, people are going to love and enjoy it. Like, it kind of reminds me of Watchmen. Like, the author of the Watchmen comics. Man's a fucking psycho. Crazy. I don't think there's a single thing or opinion he holds that I agree with. But he's a damn good author. Like, you can read The Watchmen, and even like the character, like he definitely kind of, I don't know if mess up is the right word, but he knows how to write characters. And even if his goal is for a character you're supposed to hate them, they still feel like a real good character.
Right. Which is like, yeah, that's the fundamental point. Like, the reason I bring it up now is because Vi tells Powder, what makes you different makes you strong, which is just, I don't need to go into it. I don't think, but I don't personally agree that what makes you different makes you strong. That's a very like modern liberal opinion to have, but like I can believe that Vi would say that to Powder, and the rest of the story is still like nothing is harmed by it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it can kind of depend in what and how you take it. Like, we all have different aspects about ourselves, but I would say like there are differences that do make us stronger. It's like about the specifics, but like the uniqueness, we got to kind of keep and hold on to some of our uniqueness, especially if it's like overall positive. And for the most part, Powder's uniqueness is positive. I just think, like, for example, her tinkering, her like, trying to build weapons and whatnot. She just has to focus on that and get better at it.
Yeah.
But not the blue hairstyle. Get rid of that shit.
I think that's her natural hair color.
You might be right. This is an animated. This is like anime 3D. So
yeah. I don't think anyone's dyeing their hair down in the Undercity.
It's just the nuclear energy.
They're just radioactive waste.
Well, but then again, the pretty princess Caitlin, she's got blue hair. So
Caitlin?
Yeah, it's blue, right?
I thought it was just black.
No, it's blue.
Yeah, it's just black.
No, it's blue.
Was it like navy, like really, really dark blue?
I mean, I think navy blue would not be inaccurate to say, but like when we see her,
yeah, I guess it's like maybe a dark purple even.
Hold on, I'm going back to like the very first scene we see her. Also,
that's pretty.
Now that I'm kind of like back to the first scene, do you think there's like a reason why Jace is kind of shot in a way where we don't see him that well until the explosion?
Huh. Like, yeah, that is kind of interesting.
Yeah, like we don't see his face at all. And then like we have a couple of fast little bits as he's trying to ram the door down with his shoulder. It's just like odd why we don't really get his face in focus until that explosion.
Yeah, I think it kind of draws into what I was talking about at the start, where I was like, I didn't even really think about who they had stolen the stuff from, where we're kind of, I guess, transitioning from the kid's perspective to Jace's perspective. And so we're still like, I don't know, this might be reading too much into it, or maybe it's not reading enough into it, but we're kind of like, yeah, we're not seeing Jace clearly until the explosion, which is the last thing we see from this area from the kid's perspective, and then now we're fully into Jace's perspective.
Yeah, you're probably right, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and actually, the first time we see his face, it's almost as if we're seeing him through Vi's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Nothing.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting.
Yeah, nice. I feel like that's some good bar trivia.
Yeah. But onto the more important matters. Caitlin's hair.
Right.
What color is it?
It's blue. It's fucking blue.
It's like a really dark blue.
So I was right.
Yeah.
As usual. Now,
and so the scene we were on was the one where Marcus and the captain receive a letter, and
well, hold on.
Give the captain one last what?
Don't we want to talk about, and the captain's Grayson? Don't we want to talk a little bit more about Marcus's and Grayson's interaction with one another? How she is obviously quite pissed at him going to the last drop.
Yeah, I mean, sure. What do you think?
I don't know. I felt like we just had to mention it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of the same.
Mm-hmm. But things kind of boiling to a point, as especially Grayson, she's like, "Do you know what you've done?" Just now, like she's really concerned. She feels like there's nothing that can stop what's about to come next until that message comes from the tube.
Right. And yeah, it's the parallels between, especially I think Grayson's kind of plot lines in these first couple of episodes. I feel like the parallels between it and Hot D are just so clear to me because we've watched them both so close together. But it's just a so much better way of doing the kind of build up to conflict.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's much better in the scenes that they show us in their importance. Like I said, I could go through Hot D and cut out tons and tons of scenes that I feel for the most part were completely useless. Like, for example, remember, as much as I enjoyed the scene, remember when Jace flew to the twins and got the phrase to kind of support the blacks?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of like mitigated once Damon just earns the support of the Tullys and thus all the Riverlands?
Yeah. Maybe that's why it wasn't in the books.
But that's the thing. You can't do that with this. You can maybe these. No, you really can't. You can't really cut anything out of this because I think it makes the story worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and most of it, I would be hard pressed to even come up with a potential idea for a better way of doing things.
I mean, the best I could do, and I say best in big ass quotations, just we hold on this scene for 2 seconds. What if we hold on it for a second and a half?
Yeah, once you're getting down to that level, it's like what are you even doing?
Yeah, you're doing nothing.
I will say the song at the end, as we see Powder and Vander hanging out, it feels a little bit out of place.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't know. Because it's supposed to be diegetic, they're listening to it in universe, but I wouldn't expect this song to come on the jukebox at that bar.
I don't know. Maybe. No, you're kind of right. It's kind of hard for me to remember the song because, I'm kind of going it through it scene by scene with the show on Netflix. But of course, I have it muted.
Right.
So I might have to take this as a little bit of a rewatch later. But I mean, obviously, though, this entire moment is kind of building up to where we see Vi was the one who sent the message. And she's waiting for the enforcers to come get her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in regards to this, though, a part of me wonders, how much can we comment on the next episode in regards to what's happening in this episode? Because, I decided we can tackle that the next episode. Because I do have one question where the answer might lie in this episode, but I don't know.
Yeah, probably better off talking about it next episode.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the final scene of this episode, and it's good shit. Like I said, this is probably, in my eyes, if I remember the whole season as a collective, this is probably the weakest episode, but it's still fucking fantastic.
For sure. for sure. I mean, again, it's just because this is purely a setup episode for the most part. There's not a lot of like big moments going on in it, but like just tons of like little moments that are just leading us in. It's such a concise and straight line that they take you down with the story.
Yeah, we're jumping back and forth between all the characters, figuring out their motivations, seeing their actions, why they're doing everything, and good shit.
Yeah.
Man, this is so much easier when you just have to say, man, this is good.
Yeah, it does make it harder to come up with interesting things to say, I find at times, but I appreciate it either way.
Maybe we should find a garbage show and we can tackle that. I've heard great things about Willow.
Ooh.
Ouch. We'll hold off on that. But since we've made it to the end, as always, DJ Fella, it's a pleasure to talk about these episodes with you.
Absolutely.
And to everyone who made it this far, I want to say thank you very much. If you want to see more, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so that way you'll be notified when the next episode drops. Until then, be safe, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.